Hey there, lovely people. Welcome back to another Story Study Saturday. I'm Sammi, and I'm a writer who likes to help other writers become better writers. If you continue on to enjoy this video, please leave a like down below. It'll really help me out and show YouTube that maybe more people will also like this video. So this week I want to talk to you about the Inheritance games. This has major Knives Out energy, and I did not expect to like Knives Out, so I did not expect to like this book, but like, geez. I honestly probably would not have picked up this book if it were not for the recommendation of a friend. Hey, if you're watching, what's up? But I don't normally gravitate towards books that are like this one. It's just not the kind of cover that'll draw out to me and make me want to read the summary on it. I wouldn't have thought about it if it weren't for recommendations. So what I think this is teaching me is that I just like books. So I should pick up more books to see if more books are books that I would like. I haven't read a book that I didn't like for a while. It's been a minute, but I did very much enjoy this. It was an easy 5 stars. I read it in like 2 days. It was really hard for me to put down. I had to for the time that I read it because of people being around, because of being around family and stuff. But geez, I just blew through it. It is really great, really easy, great puzzling read. It's very rewarding because of that puzzling aspect of it. A lot of things just sort of fall into place, and it's like, wow, didn't see that one coming, or I did, and I feel rewarded that I saw it coming. So either way, anything that they kind of reveal to you is just nice to hear about. There's a lot of really interesting, unique characters in these very, very unique circumstances that it's just really interesting to read and interact with more and more of these characters. I do have some things that I think maybe could have been improved to make the story a little bit stronger. I think that this book had a lot of really, really great things falling into place. These are all sort of clue moments, but I think there were a lot of things that could have just had a moment to breathe, to just give us some time with the characters and not necessarily have everything leading to this final conclusion. It was a very, very fast-paced book because even when you thought you were getting like a moment, there was a hint at the end of it, and everything led to a hint that it felt like some of the character development that you want to have, you didn't get the chance to experience because everything was going so quickly. So I will say that there is a lot of moments that I felt like were really predictable, even in terms of like having this puzzle be solved. Like, you don't know for sure, but you kind of can assume how some of the clues are going to turn out. And that was something that I noticed that took me out of it a couple of times. It was like, oh yeah, well, of course that's how that works. It only happened a couple of times, but I still was drawn out from just like certain moments that felt cliched. And I don't know if they're actually cliched or if I just am in the realm of storytelling and like these things that I interact more often with stuff that is not necessarily cliched, but I'm able to predict what's happening because I know too much, because I read too much or whatever. But it could also just be something that is actually cliched and I just didn't enjoy the cliche in the story. It could also be a trope that is meant for people who read these books more often to enjoy having that trope pop up. But it took me out of the story a couple of times, so I feel like having a little bit more ingenuity with some of these clues might have made it slightly better. Obviously, still great book, 5 stars. 5 stars right off the bat, so it doesn't need these things. It's just something I'd be curious to see changing, you know? I also didn't really like the love triangle because it wasn't driven by anything that was really given in the story. It was acting more as like a literary device to mirror something that is happened prior to the story and prior to our main character being a part of this love triangle, and it's literally just meant to say, hey, it's happening again. And I don't like that. I very much so don't like that the main character was being used as this tool against the other characters, which kind of makes it feel worse than it probably would have if it was like maybe not a love triangle and not directly mimicking that. But I understand literarily, I understand from a writing standpoint why that love triangle is a part of the story. I just don't like it. So that's entirely a personal preference. Like, I could see myself doing the same thing in the same circumstances, but as a reader, I did not enjoy it. So that's entirely just personal perception, but thought I'd bring it up because it made me super uncomfy once I realized why it was in the story. There are a lot of great things that we can learn from this book as well. For one, building tension. This story does a really great job of doing that in a situation that is not like between a couple of characters. It's between a character, or it's between multiple characters and a situation, which builds a different kind of tension than like conflict of person versus person. This is people versus situation, and it's very different, and it's a unique way of building tension, and it's a great example of that. It's also a great example of a book that has those moving puzzle pieces that the reader gradually puts into place. Very similar to how I feel that They Both Die at the End has those moving puzzle pieces that are dropped in that you kind of get to put together and see in your mind without being given the answers. It has very, very, very distinct characterizations, even in a situation that not necessarily every single person would have to be different, because you've got these situations that draw towards stereotypes and like creating those archetypes of people and just sort of putting them in where you need them. But every single character, and there are a lot of them in this story, is drastically different, and they all feel like they serve a purpose towards the main overall conflict and our main characters' internal conflict. And those are really important factors if you're going to have a large cast of characters that we keep track of. And keeping track of all of them made a difference to the story. I wanted to be able to say that we didn't need one of the four brothers, but all of them had an impact on the story in a different way. While not all of them directly impacted the main character, they all impacted something that impacted her. And that's important. That's how you make characters important to your story without having them feel like they're tools to the plot. And none of these characters felt like they were tools to the plot the way that the love triangle did. It's a mystery. It's a mystery story that doesn't have like the same, oh, somebody died, now we gotta solve the crime kind of thing that I usually don't like, which is, I don't like solving puzzles when they're sad. And this one wasn't as sad as it could have been. While there is somebody who's dead, hence the inheritance games, it's not solving somebody's death. It has an amazing cliffhanger ending that I desperately want to read the next book, but I'm waiting for it. So that's great. So it's got a lot of amazing things going for it. So giving a different character's perspective to create a cliffhanger, that's amazing. And giving hints towards that cliffhanger before the cliffhanger starts, those little plot seeds, that's great. It's just a really, really well done puzzle. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing how the series goes and continues, because I don't think I've ever read a series that is not complete before I started reading it, which this is a new experience for me. So if you read it, The Inheritance Games, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It'll really help me out, and I'll really appreciate it, and I'll think you're the best, most amazing person ever. And I will see you on Tuesday for a Writing Tip Tuesday.